Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Men Are Now podcast. We got a really exciting one today. We got an awesome guest, and we're going to talk about the masculine and femininity, balance. And essentially, we've all dealt with this, we've all experienced it, and it's not talked about too much. How to balance these different energies within ourselves, within relationships, within our friendships, etc. So we're going to dive right into it today. So introducing, as always, the husband.
What's going on?
We have Mr. Jaron Scott of Gringo Guides.
Hello, hello.
Oh, wait, that's a name change.
Yeah, huh? Who did that? Who signed off on that? Huh?
What's that all about?
Yep.
These guys over here. And then finally, we got our special guest today from Stand Tall, Rise Above It, Lucas. Welcome, my friend.
Good afternoon or good evening, guys.
So
all the way from across the globe.
Yes. Got
that's right.
Here. We
got go ahead and give us an introduction about yourself. We were just talking backstage, and I had no idea how tall you were, and you've got a history of basketball, and I don't know. You're an interesting guy. So tell the world who is Lucas.
In a nutshell, because I can talk about myself for hours, of course, like anyone could, with stories and everything. But I live in Amsterdam. Spent my college years in the States playing basketball and going to university, of course, getting a little bit of education. I am bare feet, I would like to say 6'10 and a half, so 208 in centimeters. Had a professional basketball career in Europe. I did a little corporate work. I had a little bit of startup work, delved around in the cryptocurrencies, and basically at the start of this year, I started Stand Tall and Rise Above It, with the sense that I wanted to help men stand tall in life and rise above their problems, or actually more like dissolving the problems, right? Like just make sure that they're not existing anymore. And then about half a year ago, I made the pivot to more of a spiritual side, or at least in understanding the spiritual side of the whole masculine and feminine dynamics, because I felt there's a bit of an uncertainty in the world when it comes to in regards to just men in general, how men should behave. And for me, it came, of course, with the name that we all know, Andrew Tate. And then on the other side, I feel like he's an extremity. And on the other side, there was maybe an LGBTQT movement that was on the other side of it, and then everything in between. And I feel like both sides are not going to come together. And I hope to make men understand themselves better at first, and then understand other men and their women, and vice versa. Because I would like to see us coming together more as a society, but also as a person. I feel like a lot of men are disconnected from themselves. And I guess most humans nowadays are so disconnected from themselves, right? We're living through a mobile device, we're living through the internet, we're living through everyone else's experience, and we kind of forget who we are and what we can accomplish, already have accomplished in life. So that's me.
That's great. I love what you're saying there. I definitely see it today that there's a lack of understanding what masculine and feminine really means and how we can live through those. I had mentioned it before in the channel, and I'll mention it again. The yin and yang is truly the most beautiful symbol that I think exists in the world, and it shows that, and it stood the test of time. The difference between masculine and feminine energy, and when they come together, it's just beautiful and it's powerful.
Like it's
that name's fitting for you too.
Right? Which one?
Let's say that name's fitting for you too, being, would you say 6'10 and a half or 208 centimeters, Stand Tall, Rise Above It?
Yeah.
Did that have something to do with the name? You're like, well, I do literally look above the entire world my entire life.
Well, see, I was having this conversation with a friend and a therapist, and I said, like, okay, like starting the new year, I'm going to start my coaching business, but I don't have a name for it yet. And he said, well, what do you want to do? And I explained what I wanted to do. And I was like, he's like, well, do something. And he's an Irish guy, or actually a Great Britain guy. And then Or he lives in Ireland now, and he said something. You know what? Stand tall. And I was like, well, stand tall is just the first half. Of course, you're gonna stand tall against the problems in life and be strong and be courageous. But there's also have to be something that you want to overcome stuff, like you want to rise out of it. And he's like, rise above it. So there's no pun intended, but it's like a double entendre almost, right? Like stand tall and then rise above it. It's like you're already like 208 and you want to be taller. That's not really what it's about, of course. But
And we as men, we're always looking to rise above our current situation. I think that's a really powerful message. And so you and I, we met in a coaching community. So can you share with the audience like what you do for your coaching? Like what does that involve, entail, etc.?
well, my coaching clients for now they were at me from the beginning, so they were still more of on the passion and the purpose kind of trajectory. My new coaching course is going to come out on October 1st, and it's going to be a 3-month course through the whole concept of masculinity and every facet of what it means. And it can be anything of just understanding where masculinity came from, and duality in life, because that's kind of what you said, right, about the yin and yang. It's just, for me, that's the dualities in life. There's always the light and the dark, the rain and the sunshine. We always find like two opposites and then make them whole, basically. And then for me, it was also just the understanding of like, if I feel like what cats do, basically. So you take care of yourself so you can take care of the other person first. Because sometimes people are so busy with taking care of other people around them and forget about themselves. So I feel like there's a sense of self-love, finding the self, and then creating all kinds of concepts either through meditation, workouts, visualization, anything else, just questionnaires. The beautiful thing is, and that's why I like my job the most, is the product is men and human beings. And I think that's the most difficult, but it's also the most versatile product we can have, right? Because sometimes when you say you can sell a car, and that car has a certain top speed that you're pretty certain of that it can reach. But you don't know how fast a human being can go, because records are always meant to be broken. So we're so fluid. So one person can be so that's also the thing. It's like, right, masculinity is not like really a start and a beginning where you can scale people. I feel like everyone, it's like almost a piece of the pie. And some people have a little bit more of this, a little bit more of that. And it's much more complex. That's why I'm still in the one-on-one coaching. I don't do group coaching yet, because I feel like I still feel find the most benefit in people doing the one-on-one coaching and helping guys on a one-on-one session. And then as soon as I get a little bit more, experience, I would say, in the whole coaching scene, and then I'll soon transition to where we met, like the bigger stages. 10,000 people in a Facebook group. That's pretty phenomenal. All like-minded. That's where growth happens, and a lot of support happens.
Mm-hmm. And the guy we're in the community with, like, I've been following him since he had like 2,000 followers on YouTube, and now he's at like 360K. So he's had a transformation journey too. So it's just cool that so many men right now are trying to level up and just be better, and the internet provides this great opportunity for anybody to do it. Like who would have thought we'd all be connecting here from all over the world? It's insane. It's crazy. So I actually have a question for you three. I'm newer on my masculine journey for sure. How do you balance it between the masculine and feminine within yourself? Because to give a little context, so I have a move coming up with homie Jaron here, and I'm really excited for it. But there's like a sense in the last few days of that ungroundedness, that uncertainty. And so I noticed that my own feminine energy has kicked up a little bit. And because I've been following all these masculinity stuff, and like part of me is like, dude, you can't be feeling this, like, and kind of I'm giving myself a hard time. So how do you find that balance within yourselves, basically? And don't dive in all at once.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think about it, because like, I tend to live my life, like, as you were saying, Lucas, like there's a spectrum to masculinity. And so I tend to live my life pretty masculine, pretty dominant, pretty authoritative, pretty aggressive. But there are times where, I let myself feel. So like, for example, I sent something to you, Joel, last week where I was completely raw. I was completely raw with you. I showed you a picture of me crying. I mean, I'll just put it out there. And it's okay to let yourself feel each side. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you try and, cut out ever feeling some of those, feminine energies, well, it's not going to work. I mean, heck, when you look at the yin and yang, there is a dot on each piece. So it's masculine with a little bit of feminine, feminine with a little bit of masculine. It's okay to feel the other side, because if you cut it off entirely, it'll lead to internal frustration.
Although you're in your defense, the crying thing, I'm the same way, where I only cry when I'm happy. I don't ever cry when I'm sad. I don't feel melancholy. I don't feel down or depressed or anything. It's more so, and this sounds really weird, but if there's something like a funeral I have to go to, I'm usually pretty stoic. I know that my role there is to be the rock for other people in the family or in my immediate circle to lean on. And then I grieve my own way, and usually like, oh, it's the natural course of life, and these things happen, and I'm not immortal. That will someday happen to me, and that really brings me internal peace. But if I see a beautiful sunset, or oh my god, at my sister's wedding, dude, I was crying so hard, it was ridiculous. But I was happy, I was elated. So in your defense, you weren't crying because you're weak or you're sad. You're just, you have to enjoy the beauty of the universe and this life we have sometimes, and a lot of people don't do that.
And I'm trying to understand where my feelings are coming from, right? Because I feel the crying example is actually a beautiful thing, because it almost comes down to this masculine fragility, right? Because sometimes we're like, wait, like the alpha male, which is like almost the quintessential male that we might adore, like we want to be alpha, but that doesn't necessarily mean that always everyone has to be alpha. And what is then the crying? Is that like more of the feminine energy? It's like, is a man not supposed to cry? And what is a man not supposed to cry out of sadness, but we can cry out of happiness? But I do actually, the more I step into the masculine energy, I feel more comfortable with the fact of, I'm not sure sad emotions, right, but the crying emotions, almost like it's letting out some kind of energy. Because I caught myself with tears in my eyes the other night when I was in some YouTube hole watching some, what is this guy's name? There's this guy, and I don't remember the name, he does on Omegle or whatever, like when you click and you see a new screen and click, he does these raps for people on the top of his head with nice beats, and I don't remember his name, but apparently everyone knows him every time he comes on. But he the way, and that's of course what music can do, the way he rhymes, the way he speaks, the way he touches these people, you can see these people on the other end of the screen, just like you and I are emotionally involved in what he's saying, and they're emotionally touched. And I'm touched. And then, like back in the day, I would never allow myself that to happen. I'm like, wait, Luke, what the fuck are you crying about, man? Like, really? Like, this guy is rapping, and then you're like, and I'm like, wow, but that's exactly what you said about the happiness. It's like, crying is okay, no matter what happens. And I feel like maybe as a real true man, we can embrace crying when it first starts with happiness crying. Then maybe that's like the gateway to more emotional openness. Then we maybe can cry out of sadness, or maybe cry out of other emotions or something. And maybe you don't cry at all. It's like, but don't beat yourself up, because that's, I think that's where it almost boils down to. It's like, where do these emotions come from?
And you mentioned that emotion, and I had a business coach years ago, and he defined it in a way that really made sense to me, and I'm glad that he was able to do this, in that emotion is just energy in motion. So you mentioned the spiritual thing. A lot of times people think that, okay, I'm this isolated node in a larger system and everything is derived from me. And for me, a major revelation was that energy actually flows through you. So when you do things like cry, or when you express these emotions, that's not necessarily you being weak. That's you channeling energy through you. And I believe it's really healthy to do that. I do that in other ways too, going back to like the masculine versus feminine dichotomy. So when I'm really aggressive, when I'm really pissed off, gym is a sanctuary for me. Gym is a channel for me to allow that aggressive energy to flow through me. Music is one where some of those happy, those melancholic, those mixed emotions can flow through me. And then of course the crying thing, I cry at weird things like sunsets and just beautiful things in nature, because it just makes you so goddamn happy to be alive. And I think that's a healthy expression of your emotions, which again is just energy flowing through you. We're not necessarily an isolated node and then the world happens to us. We're a part of a bigger, grander scheme and things flow through us. And actually, in that definition, that sounds more kind of like feminine too. Feminine energy is more of a flow type state.
Well, to answer you, Joel, based on what we've been talking about, essentially you're feeling heightened anxiety. So how do you work through that anxiety? Probably all you need to do before this move, because it's a big move. You just need to talk to people. Talk to a bunch of different people. Do what women do.
I didn't
solve
know
the
that.
problems. Just talk about it.
What are you anxious about, Joel? Yeah, it's chill. It's chill down here. You'll dig it.
I'm so thank you guys. How'd you read me like a book, man? I think I agree with you guys coming back to the crying. Like crying is beautiful. Like I think it means that like when I cry, it's like I feel human. I'm like, this is what it means to be alive. So I'm with you guys there 100%. I think the anxiety is coming from just a big life transition. Like I think you get comfortable in your certain environment and all of a sudden it's like, I was talking to my mentor last night. He's like, hey, I want you to enjoy this week where you are, like spend some time with your family and stuff. You might never come back. Like this could be it. It was just like, whoa, like, dude. So I'm like walking around my house today, like, bro, this is where I grew up. This is like where I developed as a human. And it's like,
or to the converse. And I was reminded, because I have a lot of guys come down that like, I can't wait. It's going to be so awesome. And they come down and then they realize it's not for them. And then they feel like they're letting me down or that they're letting themselves down. But I was the kid growing up where I did every single activity, played every sport. I played basketball for 2 seasons, 3 points each season, realized that was not my sport at all, gave it up. But I made a valid effort. But the point being is, whereas other people would be like, oh, you're a quitter, you couldn't hang with it. It's like, no, I don't see it that way. I gave it a try and realized it wasn't for me. And by trying everything and then quitting things sooner than later, you can dial in really who you are. For me, I always loved the Mexico thing, but I have had buddies that have come down. They're here for a month. Like, dude, I didn't realize everyone spoke Spanish. I'm like, how'd you not realize that? Like, it's Mexico. They speak Spanish. So realize too, yeah, you may never come back. Or if you do decide to go back, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Just kind of take it as an opportunity and then see what new doors that potentially opens for you. Or if it closes doors, so now you know, like, hey, I always thought this might be a dream of mine to do the passport bro, digital nomad, live abroad thing. And then if you do realize, hey, this isn't for me, at least you gave it a go. You'll never have that doubt. So either way you win when you look at it from that perspective.
Oh, I appreciate that, Jaron. Yeah, that's super powerful. Lucas, go ahead. I saw you.
No, it made me think of this quote, and actually this quote came from one of my, I want to call it an ex-girlfriend, but let's say we dated for a little bit, and she said her mother, or no, her grandmother always said, and that is in Dutch, but like basically translate, research everything and retain what is good, or like whatever, do everything you want and then just keep what's good for you. And then when I started this business, I really got into quotes. So it actually kind of comes down from the Bible, because I'm actually finding it right now in my quote section, but it says like 1 Thessalonians 5:12, test everything and retain what's good. And that's what life is about, because sometimes we'll beat ourselves up about not taking a chance, taking a chance and not living up to the expectations. And then of course you come back to a point like expectations can be a trouble, of course. But I feel like we don't need to be as hard on ourselves, but as long as we take action, masculine, right? Doing shit, getting stuff done. And what if it's not for you? You tried, man. You've been it. You've done that. You took the chance. On to the next thing, right? It's kind of with sports as well. I had a great coach, Coach Imhoff. Shout out to him. And Coach Imhoff always said, right, you can sleep on it till 12 o'clock, and then next day is the next thing. And it's kind of the same thing with anything that happens in life, right? You make decisions, you move, it's good. Is it not good? You can pack up your stuff again, man.
Oh, absolutely. I appreciate that, Lucas. And I think what some of this fear is coming from, to be honest, is the fear that's going to be fucking awesome. Deep down, I know it's going to be badass. Like, it's going to be life-changing. So
that's a good point, too.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I was just going to piggyback.
I was wondering, like, in what sense was it that you, what are you afraid of? Or not afraid? Like, what is it excitement?
I think it's
the
excitement.
Unknown.
And it's the unknown. Yeah, absolutely. The uncertainty, right? And
because no matter what happens, you're not going to come back. Even if you do come back home or you don't come back home, that's irrelevant at this point. It will change you for having these experiences. It is a major life changing event. And I go through that sometimes too. I wouldn't call it necessarily the imposter syndrome, but when I'm going through periods of growth, it is painful sometimes. And that's a weird feeling to where you simultaneously feel excitement and elatement, but also that pain in terms of I'm shedding a former self or I'm going into new territory. And even if I wanted to go back, it won't be the same because I have this new experience. So I'm never going to go back. That world I yearn for never really truly existed because my world has now changed and I can't change it back. So sometimes that's scary too. I call it growing pains.
Definitely. Yeah. Came back from Poland and been back in the US, and I see the US so different. Like, it's like, I'd rather not be here. So
I feel so not. The more I'm outside of the U.S., the less and less American I feel when I go home. And you'll hear me do the Freudian slips too. I'll say, "Oh, the Americans," or "Oh, people up there," and I'm like, "Oh, that's my country." To where I don't realize I'm doing it, but I'm mentally separating myself from my home culture. But I'm not. The U.S. is cool because you can be a new immigrant and then show up and say, "Hey, you know what, man? I'm American. I believe in the American dream. I'm gonna give it a go." Like, hell yeah, you're American. In most other countries in the world, I will never be seen as a Mexican. Even if I have kids here, they'll be seen as kind of half, and then usually it's the third generation to where they'll accept you as a local. So it's like, all right, I'm a foreigner in my new land, but when I go home to the U.S., I feel more like a foreigner in the U.S. than I do here. So it's kind of like I'm a man with no state, but that's scary and liberating at the same time. It's like, well, now I'm a man of the world. Now I'm my own person. And you hear these in religious texts all the time. You have to get out of your shell. You have to go out in the world. You have to go wander the desert for 40 years. And then when you come back, you're changed. You're enlightened. You're a new you, a higher version of yourself.
Got me so pumped. Oh man, fucking yeah. Thank you guys. And coming full circle, I think this is why coaching is so important. Like, this was basically thank you guys. Like, this was a mini coaching session and
a free coaching call. We'll invoice you. Don't worry.
$7,000. Okay. Yeah. Man, I might not be coming down for this bill, but guys, like, getting around other guys that, are where you want to be, that have experienced what you want to experience, are further along in the journey, is so powerful because you can bounce these ideas off them and really have those deep insights and revelations that you wouldn't have had without. Like, if I wouldn't have talked to you guys right now, I'd probably be carrying around this energy for the next 10 days until I actually came down here and experienced for myself. So coaching just helps you expedite the process, and you can just save years of your time from just getting a coach. Like, and we all do coaching here. So we see the transformation within people that we coach as well. Like they come, they're struggling, and next thing you know, they're like free, and they're just like, wow, I've been trying to do this thing for years, and I talked to you for half an hour and now it's over. So yeah, super powerful, guys. So we'll move on here a little bit. Any other masculinity topics? I know, Huds, you had some really some big questions you wanted to pose about relationships and stuff. So
I didn't necessarily have big questions, a whole bunch of big questions, but
this is big, man. We're in it.
No, I just find it interesting because, like, I think about my relationship, and dude, I am so unbelievably happy with this woman, and I am extremely masculine. So, as I said, like, the dominant, aggressive, and she is like polar opposite on the feminine side, where it's more submissive, it's the caring, it's reserved. Like, it's crazy how different we are, but then we work. And that's, again, it comes to that yin and yang. And I find it difficult to grasp in this world today, where women are trying to be like, I don't need no man, independent, like all that type of stuff, and it keeps getting pushed in the media, and then everybody wonders why relationships aren't working. I mean, they've got projections that whatever percentage it is, I don't know, 45% or something, like 60%. It's some like really high number of women are going to be single in like the coming years or something, or like 10 years, whatever this statistic is. I don't remember the exact thing, but the trajectory is going one direction. And so I don't quite understand that in culture. I don't know if you guys have seen the same thing, because I know, Joel, you had said, like, in Poland, it's very traditional.
Yep.
We don't seem to have that in the US. The US seems to be going out of control, and I don't understand it, because when you have that dichotomy of masculinity and femininity, and it's done naturally, it's such a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Like, I think that's a big. Oh, go ahead, Lucas.
No, and I do. And the thing is that for me, and then you guys being Americans, right, can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like almost the epitome of like Western society is the States, right? Like it's like the American dream, like for the longest time, especially for our reality, and as much as we've been on Earth, like everything post World War II was basically the heydays for America, right? Like they just kept on growing, kept on being massive, and now it's kind of like it's the rise and fall of the empires. It's not as much as the world power anymore. And then it comes, it's almost like the alpha male in the world was America for a long time, the top of masculinity, and now that society is becoming very fragmented and divided almost, right? There's so much confusion going on. I feel like that's, and by the way, another thing that's also something to think about, like when I heard you talk about numbers and women not finding relationships and stuff anymore, I think that the statistic is that by 2045, most men are going to be infertile, because that's also something. Yeah, something we need. Do we have someone who's looking up stuff up on YouTube, like, or not on Google?
I'm gonna go ahead and look up that. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's super interesting. It's the decline of testosterone. Natuurlijk, everyone's test is getting freaking low. The male sperm count is running backwards, and that's it's almost like it goes almost hand in hand with like decline of the traditional male. And I'm not saying that the traditional male is that's something that we need to go back towards. But the values and the ideas that the traditional male held were great, and also acknowledging those facts that they're within us. And I feel like we're being silenced as like outspoken, like now the outspoken man is being silenced so much in today's society. Is that's maybe also a confusion, right? What's going on when I see with like the younger generations, is that there's like, how much are you allowed to say before you're being silenced? Like, and because that's the thing Jordan Peterson talks about is as well. Like the degree of disagreeableness is something very masculine, and that I find myself learning more about it as I try to step more into my masculinity as well. It's like back in the day, I sometimes used to be much more of a people pleaser. I was always happy-go-lucky. Lucas is cool. Relax, and now I'm trying to step more into that masculine role, and you're going to disagree with a lot of people much more, and finding comfort in not acquiescing with everything and everyone is so liberating and so strengthening, and that's also something that I hope that people, you don't need to be very harsh and outspoken, like we're gonna again maybe an Andrew Tate is for some people, but you also don't need to be like being ran over by everything and everyone else, like some other like more like the beta males, you could say like, right, and everything in between. But so I'm playing with it in my own life in the sense of like I like to disagree more with people, but on a way that won't hurt their feelings as much. Because a lot of times people are, that's also something I feel like is going on in today's society, is that people can be a little bit too soft nowadays. Words can hurt, of course, but I mean, everything that's being said, it's kind of like, you can attract certain things, and certain things you can just, keep on a distance from you. And then people nowadays like to almost absorb all that negative energy, and that keeps them small, and then either they disagree or agree or have no opinion about it. But if you don't vocalize it, it's almost like that crying kind of thing. It's like this, the emotion, the energy. Just go out, just disagree with people, but don't
be an asshole about it.
No, exactly.
See, that's one of the things that I've run into. I tend to be very polarizing with people because I'm very firm in my beliefs, and I'd love to challenge people. not necessarily like to start an argument, but I just like to challenge the idea itself. Like I may actually agree with your points when you're saying them, but I'm still going to challenge you. And then I've had to learn how to smooth out my language over the years so that this doesn't happen quite as often.
Well, like with your vocabulary, that you're a little bit too hard.
Yeah, like the way that I would say things, because that would then I used to be a little too aggressive, like a little bit earlier in my 20s. And so now I've kind of learned how to say things without really pressing people's buttons and actually having that discourse in a peaceful manner.
Yeah.
My computer overheated, so I'm back.
No worries.
We're cooking over here.
And by the way, I looked up the statistics. So I was right on my first number. So 45% of women are expected to be single and childless by 2030 or 2030. So that's 7 years from now. That's pretty crazy. And then for the men, I didn't find exact numbers, but it does state that most men in the US and Europe will be infertile by 2060.
Infertile, that's insane. Or what's the statistic? It's something that a third of all men between 18 and 40 haven't had physical intercourse or intimacy in the last year, which that's insane to me.
That is insane to me.
There's a lot of loving that could be had that's not being had.
That's what we're talking about. We need to live the masculine and feminine. We need to bring the genders together. But instead, for whatever reason, media and everything else is pushing them apart. Yep.
The way I see it is it's like when you look at the people too that are so upset and the ones that are like, lashing out, passive aggressiveness is kind of the energy vibe I get. Like it's not direct, like you were saying, it's more like underneath the surface and trying to manipulate, which is quite, toxic and codependent and all that stuff. But when I see it and I look at the people, it seems almost like, and I almost feel some compassion because those people are the people that weren't, maybe accepted in high school. They weren't, because this all goes back to like being children, right? Like they probably weren't the ones that were, on the sports teams and doing really well, like socially, right? So the way I see it is like, it's almost their time to get back at everyone. And they're doing it in this very kind of weird, like, not so.
The point I make too, going back to the whole love topic, is that a lot of men don't know how to, and again, it's emotions are energy in motion, channel into that universal emotion of love. If you come from a religious persuasion, that's God and the Christian faith. So whatever frequency that is, learn how to dial into that, feel that for yourself. And you can feel it like literally light you up at your core. There's a reason language exists in the way it does, to why we say like, I saw the light, or I saw the light at the end of the tunnel. That's the universal energy frequency or wavelength of love. Channel that through you, and then through your masculine filter, then you can actually give that love to a woman. And when I first understood what that universal love was, felt it, realized that I am an extension of the universe. They tell you when you do things like mushrooms, like MDMA or any of those, like don't look in the mirror. If you're new, don't do that. But for me, I always look in the mirror because you just see the universe looking back at you. Or again, if you're of a religious background, God looking back at you through your own eyes. And when you have that, then it just lights you up. The whole world changes, that the detail is crisper. The birds chirping is a little more beautiful. Just walking around and just, wow, it's so awesome to be alive. Now you have that at your core. You can channel that love again through your masculine frame or filter into a woman. And we see that manifest in the physical. That's why we have the hardware we do, it's pretty obvious to see with your own two eyes. And I've noticed once I channeled into that energy and I could allow that to flow through me, and I can give my masculine love to a woman, that a lot of them are incapable of receiving love. And again, if you look at the physical hardware, women are receivers. Masculine energy is more of a penetrative type energy. So I think that really screws a lot of things up too. Like I have a lot of love I want to give, but if that energy receiving receptacle or vessel is unable to do so, then what do you do with that? And I've always noticed that women that are capable of receiving my masculine love, universal love flows through me into them. And then feminine energy is an amplifier, is what I've noticed. It comes back to me, and then you get this positive feedback loop to where you really grow together. And I think that's why in any sort of faith or tradition, or even more like Eastern type philosophies, going back to the yin and the yang thing, you have to have masculine and feminine energy together, because that's how you triumph. That's how you achieve. And with that amplification type effect, really, if you get with the right partner or the right female, since we're talking to guys here, then you're truly unstoppable. It's just energy just amplifying and repeating itself. And that's really beautiful when you can find that. And I believe that is the natural state of men and women. And unfortunately, men don't know how to tap into that energy. They don't know how to funnel or fuel their masculine love into a woman or a female, and she's unable to receive it. And because of that, she can't amplify it. So we're just kind of these two independent units that should be together and vibrate and magnify, and we don't. It's just kind of, all right. Third of guys not having any physical intimacy, 45% of females being completely single, and all right, like, what are we going to do with that?
I think it's up to us, huh? Ultimately, us, the men who are trying to understand it or understand it to some extent. I mean, I guess we're no super experts on it yet, but we try at least to understand it and make it known, because I feel like the world needs more men like us who are more on the forefront and trying to help and educate. Because for me, just like a lot of more other things, I would like to see the dynamics of masculinity and femininity maybe in like high school courses or something that like we understand. Because a lot of times we get biology, right? Like, oh, you know what the penis and the vagina looks like or whatever kind of stuff. But no one talks about energy, right? Which is like one of the most predominant factors in this whole universe. Everything is energy. And no one talks about these dynamics and how this works. What do you feel? Certain emotions, certain energy in motion, you're going to feel it. How are you going to react to it? What can you do about it? And that's what we are for, to help the men nowadays. But our job would have been a lot easier if there's some way for them in high school or whatever kind of school, guys, but also girls get taught this. How do you go about this? Like, it's more of the emotional, energetic intelligence that you can create.
And between masculine and feminine, it's almost like a chain reaction, like an atomic or nuclear type chain reaction. The masculine comes in, penetrates, so that this energy gets transferred to the feminine. This energy gets bigger, gives back to the masculine. Masculine gets bigger, and then it explodes almost exponentially and gives off a ridiculous amount of energy, which is why it's so crucial for men to figure out you got to conquer yourself first. But once you're able to feel that energy, save your energy, manage your energy, and then give that energy to a female who's receptive of that energy, then that's where you get that back and forth, and things just, they really, really take off. I know it sounds a little woo-woo, but when you get to that point in your evolution, you can't unsee it. It's there.
And that's the beautiful thing, right? Because not every woman will do this for you, and which is also okay. Because I feel like a lot of times in the dating world can be harsh for a lot of men, and then they beat themselves down, right? Like, whatever, date number 10 with woman number whatever 6, 8, and I still haven't found love or whatever. I still haven't found that connection yet.
Love lives within you.
Yeah, and also,
yeah, there we
amen,
go.
Brother. Amen. That's where it starts. But I feel like that's what it starts as well. It's also almost boils down back to that saying what we have when we say hurt people, right? Mm-hmm. It's like when you love yourself, then you're more able to receive love properly. And if you don't have a really good relationship with yourself, how can you expect the other person to have that with you as well? It's pretty fucking difficult, I would assume.
Yeah, it's very difficult. And then you see it just in dysfunctional relationships all over, where it's two incomplete people. Hudson and I have been talking a lot about this codependency, and you get two incomplete people trying to make a whole. Never works. It's like, it's got to be whole and whole to make a super whole.
That's exactly. And the transference of energy, I always use the analogy. It's like, if you guys know any musical stuff, like the old tuning forks, where you hit it ding, and then you put another tuning fork next to it, and they resonate at the same energy. That's exactly what the female masculine dynamic is. The masculine has to be that first tuning fork you hit, ding, and the female, when she gets in your periphery, you're actually within your orbit. Then she picks up that energy, vibrates at your frequency. But again, there's an amplification effect. She vibrates at your same frequency and then amplifies that, which amplifies you and then amplifies her. And it's really tough that when you're unable to get that initial ding and you're out there like, oh, I need this love. It has, as a guy, it has to start with you. Otherwise, you're not gonna receive it. If you don't put it out there, you're not gonna get it back.
Yeah, it always starts with you. I think that is so important to just, understand there is that masculine burden of performance. Like we are the initiators. We're the ones who need to make things happen. So it's just a fact of life. It may suck. Sometimes it'd be a lot easier for it just to be handed to you, but it just doesn't work that way.
100%.
So this is an interesting question from D'Angelo. Thank you for kind of clarifying that. I thought that's kind of what you were meaning. I just want to make sure. So do you think that love plays a role into how like masculine, because weren't in love, essentially is what I'm kind of understanding here. Like once they fall in love, then more masculinity comes out. And I think that's kind of what you were saying, Jaron, is that you give, she receives, gives back the energy, and that's what grows. And so you start to grow yourself, like in that the masculine energy then you'd be putting out. Do you guys like agree with that? Does it make any sense what I just said?
It actually does. That makes a lot of sense. So you'll hear me criticize a lot of the red pill type topics to where, and there's some credence to this where, oh, if she has a high body count, she's valueless. Well, if we know, and again, this goes back to like more of a traditional, like more religious type context. And if we look at it from the energy lens to keep this kind of on topical point here, it's that, okay, anytime like as men, we generate energy, and that's why you'll hear guys like, oh, how come women don't care if a guy's a high notch count, but women do? Well, men, we're the source of the energy, and then with women, we give them our energy, and then they give it back to us +1. But in doing so, she gives a piece of herself to you that she cannot get back. So women like, and guys, you'll notice this when you're around kind of, let's say, lower value women, for lack of a better term, women of the night, women that kind of sell their sexuality. When you get around them, even if you're not like hooking up with them or anything, you can feel that there's a void of energy in them, or there's like a negative type energy at the vibrational level. So I believe that's why, and again, every religion on the face of the planet, any culture at any point in human history, they all understand this. And guys in these the modern day type religion, which a lot of guys look at red pill as like kind of a religion to replace the lack of God in their life, to where, okay, yeah, like a woman that has a high notch count, she is void of that energy because she's given a little piece of herself away to so many people that there's really nothing left for her to give anymore. Whereas guys, I know for me, and you'll hear creators say this too, when a woman gives herself to me, I feel powerful. It's like, okay, I have a piece of her now, and I carry around with that with me. And you'll notice when you're younger, especially when you first start getting laid, like in high school, you see the guy walking around head up, like, yeah, you're like, all right, that guy got laid. That pep in your step. Whereas women, same thing in that age range. It looks like we all went to school at some point in the U.S. to where the infamous walk of shame. Well, there's a reason these things exist, because she gave a piece of herself away that she can't get back, and the guy gets to keep that. So guys like me that kind of run more volume, it's like I get stronger and stronger and stronger as I'm taking pieces of females. I know it's a really weird way to look at it, but again, you get to a point where when you can start dialing into these universal energy frequencies, you feel it, and you can't unfeel it. There definitely is something to it.
Wow. I didn't know you were out there making a bunch of women worse. Wow.
Yep, stealing souls. Oh yeah. I actually make them better. My girls always compliment me like, wow, I'm in good shape and I sleep so well and I just feel so peaceful and at ease. I'm like, yep, because that's my natural energy. That's what I'm giving to you. And then sometimes, you guys know, like women will bring negativity sometimes, but she can use me as an outlet for that. And then that can flow through me. I have activities like gym and meditation and guitar, and I go for walks every morning, and those are my outlets. So I can take on other people's energies and allow that to channel through me in a positive manner.
Yeah. And I think it kind of evaluated through the years as well, right? It's like, because with the technology, kind of also created the exchange of energies between more people, because it's not just face to face. Because I 100% agree with you that like the sexual dynamics between men and females are completely different because of our different energies. But back in the day, when you talk about like women with more men underneath their belt or the notch on the belt, I feel like what the problem is nowadays is like women can give themselves even more to more potential men through the means of social media. And I feel like that's almost worse. No, it's not almost worse. It is worse, because for me, for example, I don't really have a big problem with women having too. Of course, like what is too many? I mean, the numbers are debatable, but for me, it's more of the exactly what you were saying about the energies. Like I can kind of feel what her like life force energy, sexual energy is when I interact with a woman, when I sleep with her. Like you kind of can feel. But if she's lost in social media, or maybe even worse, like for example, like don't display yourself. So I would say like not super sexually online, because that takes away so much of your life sexual energy. You kind of giving it to the world. You're like, boom, look at me. Look, you can have all like sexual, all bikini pictures of me, like, and you become so empty of like this beautiful sexual energy. If you would just share it one-on-one, you're so limited, of course, because you cannot scale like your one-on-one experience. Like, whatever, but you can build like Will Chamberlain and have like slept with 1,000 women or whatever or more. Difficult, but there's still the energy exchange between two persons. But as soon as it becomes empty, or for men addicted to porn, like it's such unhealthy. You give yourself to so many empty potential women or characters.
Exactly. You're giving away your masculine power to an empty vessel, whereas it's always an energy exchange flowing through you. So like I slept quite a bit last night. I had to recharge my batteries a bit, but last night I normally don't drink, had a couple whiskeys, but I was out with friends that I haven't seen in a while. So that actually kind of recharged my batteries on the social front. And we actually got into the discussion last night. I know a lot of guys don't like these topics, and it comes kind of like from like the effinism type camp, but we were talking about with social media, a lot of women that just put themselves out there for clicks and likes, these vanity metrics, these artificial dopamine hits, rather than actually finding the way to like receive a man's true core masculine, universal, God-given love. Then in that sense, they really are objectifying themselves. And in doing so, they're giving away their feminine or their female power, the same way guys give away their power to porn and alcohol and drugs and addiction and commercial type pursuits, keeping up with the Joneses in the US. Oh, I'm going to go buy this new car. I'm going to feel good. Yeah, you feel good for a couple of days until that payment hits, and you're giving your power away. I believe women do the same thing when they're just putting themselves out there on display for everyone and getting nothing in return. Okay, you get a like on return, you get a heart comment, you get a kissy face, you get a bunch of dudes that you would never consider dating blowing up your comments, and that gives you this artificial validation in lieu of what you really want to seek at a core human level, girl or guy, and that's just love.
Right. And then when you do that, you find that these girls then, say something about it. They'll do a post or like, why can't I find a man? Why can't I find a good guy? I mean, hell, I always keep thinking of she's not so much like that, but she's still treated it the same way. Jennifer Aniston. She was devastated that she couldn't have a kid, but she waited so long, and she, obviously been posted in the media in all types of movies. Everybody thought she was gorgeous. Oh, this woman never ages. It's crazy. Well, she did age, and she aged out the ability to have a child. And there's that void in her now because she was so focused on everything else.
Oh man, 100%. D'Angelo, to your question, I like what you guys said. Like that was super powerful to hear. I haven't heard it from that perspective before, so that's awesome. The way I'm kind of looking at it is that, so a lot of guys, when they start, being around women and they get their first girlfriend, they love them unconditionally, right? Like the same way you love the puppy, and they love and love and love, and they kind of let all the other stuff go because they're in love now, right? The love will last for eternity. And as we see, you got about like 3 months, and then she's like, you stop going to the gym, you stop working out, you stop being on your purpose. And so that's how I kind of see it. Like going through heartbreak makes you realize as a guy, you have to be like what the boys said earlier. You have to be on your masculine purpose every single day. Got to be going to the gym. You got to be socializing. You got to be connecting with other guys. You got to be, connecting with women. And that's the way I see that it helps masculinity, because it teaches you that if you want to attract women and have love in your life, it's not unconditional. Sorry to break it. There is stipulations in play. And that was a big wake up for me too, because I wanted to love, because, we're all human beings, and, we all deserve love, which I still believe is partially true. But again, it comes with having to do the work at the same time.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, because when you get into relationships, a lot of times, exactly as you said, she's essentially, as the receiver, is taking more from you than you're able to give. And when you lose your purpose, that's when the relationship slowly starts to fall apart, because you're not the person that she was interested in when you got together. So it's very important to maintain that and improve that. I mean, hell, that's what we're doing literally every single day, Joel. We're building out the company that we have, and you know, my girlfriend sees that and she's attracted to it, and like and then she'll do things to support me. So she'll have dinner ready for when we're getting off a business call. She'll give me a massage after we're done working on after I'm done like editing or working on something. And it's absolutely fantastic when she sees me still having that masculine energy and increasing that masculine energy, and then giving back with the feminine energy of caring for me. So it really
Well,
is a beautiful thing.
you're illuminating an otherwise dark world. Now, maybe we're not that big, so we're not as socially relevant as some of the bigger names in the space, but we're getting there. But we're still, rather than just focusing on your household, you're going out there, you're putting yourself on camera through digitally mediated means of modern day communication, and you're shining your light on the world. And in doing so, that's making you more powerful. And this is one thing that changed the entire game for me when I realized that, talking about energy, women can feel your emotions. They can feel your energy. So it's kind of like in sales. I remember I've had a couple of sales gigs where you stand up, you look in the mirror, you smile, make sure, do your affirmations in the mirror, because if you get on the phone, like, oh, hey, Bob, yeah, how's it going today? Like, dude, who are you? Why are you calling me? Like, hey, Bob, how's it going? Hey, missed your call. Like, oh, what is this about? Yeah, we spoke last week. And your energy, people, if you're here and they're there, then you will match in the middle ground. And for me, it was so powerful when I realized even things through digitally mediated communication, like texting. So if I'm feeling anxious and I'm sending a girl a text, don't send the text, because it doesn't matter what I say. Do you use emoticons or no emoticons? What do you say when she says this? Doesn't matter. If you feel anxiety at your core or you're unsure, that will be communicated to her. I don't know how. They have a sixth sense, but they can tap into it and they can feel it. When a girl comes over and if let's say she's in a bad mood, but I just had a good workout and I'm fucking pumped, immediately that changes. Maybe first couple minutes, oh, I had a bad day, my sister's having issues with her husband, it's causing some drama at home, and then it's kind of shaking up the family, and there's some financial stuff for the company. She'll get that out. But if I'm pumped and positive, then she doesn't take that from me, but she almost comes up to my level. So it's why we hear things like, guys, like, you got to be the rock, you got to be the safe harbor in rocky waters, or like what is it, like a harbor for any ship in any storm, something like that. But all of these things exist, and they've always existed forever. I know we're in modern society. We get things like, oh, the Western culture is wrong about this, just a bunch of white colonizers and shit. Doesn't matter what culture you look at, they all have their own way of expressing this. It is universal to the human experience, so you have to keep that in mind. But going back to summarize the point, really, women can feel your energy, guys. So if you feel off, she's going to feel it too. Oh, we have guys in our private groups we talk about that are kind of more on the black pill side of things. Oh, women will never love me because I'm not tall enough, or because I'm a certain race, or because I don't make a certain income, or I'm not a certain body fat percentage. It doesn't matter what it is. Whatever you think is your problem, you're going to transmit that energy to her, and you're going to create that self-fulfilling prophecy. Whereas there's a reason I always say things. I only engage happy, healthy relationships, and I only give myself to women who love me, who are attracted to me, and who are fall in the fuck yes camp rather than the F no camp. And in doing so, your universe, or your reality, the world, starts to reflect that back to you very quickly. So that's why I'm very diligent and disciplined about not tolerating bad energy in my life, or bad relationships, or like, hey, I know you have something going on, but we don't talk to each other that way in the context of this relationship. Like, hey, I don't allow people to raise their voice in my house. I don't raise my voice in my own house. You definitely won't do so. There's the door. And I get called an asshole for it, but there's a reason you have to have those boundaries, because otherwise it'll drain your energy, and she's not going to get anything out of it either. That energy is going to, she'll get that energy, that validational energy from you, and then she'll put it back out there in a negative sense, like, oh, let me post something on Instagram so he can see, in this passive aggressive type stuff. And a lot of guys fall into those traps. They get baited into these traps Whereas for me, it's like, hey, like I'm a powerful beacon of shining light in the universe. Either you reflect that back to me and amplify it, or you just don't have a place in my life.
Yeah. And in addition to that, I feel like if men will ever come up to me with that kind of like rebuttals, so to speak, right? Like, I'm not tall enough, I'm not financially free enough, that kind of stuff, then I'm just taken aback. Like, wait, come over here, brother. You don't need to be out there yet because you got so much stuff to fix with yourself, and you're gonna try to find a dream woman. It ain't happening, buddy. It ain't happening.
He's going to draw more negative energy into his life, and that's going to make him more fixated on that. Oh, I am less than, I lack. And yeah, I'd tell the guys that, like, you're not ready to be dating. Do not date.
Yeah. And like, and it doesn't need to be like a fake sense of accomplishment or something, but like the same thing, like when you go to gym and you work out and you feel good and you radiate that, then, and you step in a good energy, then you're in a good space to maybe meet more people, and maybe people feel more attracted to you that way. But if you're in a sorry kind of state, like, you don't want to start a relationship out of like sorriness or something where people feel sorry for you. Like, man, you lost your job. Yeah, I'm going to take care of you, blah, blah, blah. And then you're going to be held in that, like that sorriness kind of state. But like, oh, you're jobless and you feel sorry for yourself. And like, and then she will keep you there as well, because that's kind of where she will like you to be as well, because that's her comfort zone. It becomes your comfort zone. It's like, no, you need to be out there. You need to be happy. From my perspective, you need to be happy with yourself. You need to be loving for yourself. You need to create a certain freedom for yourself, because I feel ultimately that's what men do, right? We create freedom for the world. Like, if a war happens, it's not like, we're going to send all the women to the front and we're going to cook all the home cooked dinners. No. Like, when shit hits the fan, all the men are gonna go hit the front or whatever we need to do, and then the women make sure they'll take care of whatever, the children and that kind of other stuff. So you take care of yourself first, whatever way you need to, feel as confident as you're gonna be, and then step out there, and then go into the dating pool, and then start upgrading whatever you want in your life, external from yourself. Because I feel like a lot of people always trying to find. For example, we all heard this before, right? It's like, I hope she's going to fix him up or whatever. Or like, whatever, you find a girl and I hope she's going to do this. Like, no, I hope it too, but that's ass backwards, because this guy, the dude, better needs to fix himself, and then he can start enjoying like real love. Because I feel that's what women bring, like the real great, passionate, unconditional love. Like, I have it with buddies. It's a different bromance kind of thing. Like, we all men can, but with a woman, it's like, I'm not sure how many facets, the Greek had many different names for love. And of course there's different sides to love, but with a woman, love is different, man. There's the love with a capital L, right?
Yeah. It's really crazy once you reach that. I mean, I guess there's never 100% of your potential, but when you become whole and you're bringing that positive energy, like as Jaron's talking about, you bring that, then you can pull out that beautiful love from a woman. You really can. And it's the most amazing thing in the world once you see it.
Yeah, and the sad thing is, a lot of guys don't even know what that is. They've never experienced it. And then, kind of like the example I gave earlier, to where a lot of women can't receive it. Even if guys do have it in front of their face, they don't know how to channel into that frequency. So I'm really into old vintage stereos with the big radio dial, and you're going to the FM band, and then you get it, you dial it, you're dialing fast at first. Is there anything out there? Oh, you kind of hear it. And then you slow down, and you really, kind of like my focus is trying to do right now. It's like really trying to dial it in. And that actually worked out well. You dial it in, and then you get that crystal clear FM stereo sound, even through like I have like a 1978 Kenwood 7050 here. It's beautiful. But if you just nick that little FM tuner dial just a little bit, it'll completely undo it. So so like, love is out there. It's all around you, but you have to learn how to dial into it, make it and own it, figure out how to fill your bucket, and then give it to someone else. And I think at the end of the day, it's what a lot of guys want. I'll get coaching clients, and yeah, I talk about the dating thing and like dating multiple women at once and having multiple relationships. But most guys, then they're usually really forthcoming and honest. They'll just say, like, dude, I just want a girlfriend, or like, I just want a girl that loves me for me. what they don't realize is unconditional love for women doesn't exist, because love can only be generated in the man. Or like if you go back to, again, traditional stuff. So like God, man, woman, children, animals. So like man has to drive love from the universe, own it himself, and then he can give that to a woman. And a lot of guys get that reverse, like, oh, if a woman loves me, I will then love myself. No, it all starts with you, and as a guy, the burden of the responsibility is on you. So if you want love, you have to figure out how to generate it within yourself. Otherwise, it'll just continually evade you, and it's right in front of your face, just like the radio dial. I use the same thing, kind of like universal energy, or again, a lot of Christians might call it God, or whatever, and whatever faith you prescribe to. But it's the same thing as the radio dial. There's radio waves all around me. I don't hear the radio right now because my receiver is turned off. But if I flip it on and dial it in, it's right there. It doesn't mean it didn't exist before I didn't hear it, but now I'm actively and consciously dialing into that frequency. And guys, you have to learn how to do that too. That's where you find love. You find love in the universe. You channel that through yourself. Then you give it to your woman. Then she gives it back to you in an amplified role.
Oh man, I love that. Pun intended. So we are coming up on the hour here. So, to finish this off, why don't we all go around and say 3 ways that we can all level up, become more whole within ourselves for the people listening, and 3 ways to find that love within. So Lucas, if you want to start us off here, let's go around the horn.
So wait, 3 ways to find love within, and three ways to spread it out in the world?
3 ways that you focus on or you recommend to guys to nurture that love and relationship within.
Well, I feel like it's asking the tough questions within yourself, right? Because it for me, it boils down to it's not self-mastery, but understanding your emotions, understanding where you find lack in this world. Because what I also don't want to create is men with some kind of sense of entitlement or fake not egos, but fake what do you call that, when you feel good about yourself?
Arrogance?
Not arrogance, but the positive side of it. Pride. Yeah, with a sense of pride and stuff. So because what could happen with the flip side of the negative stuff is that when you tell people like you need to be this way, that, blah, blah, you don't need to do anything. You don't need to be anything. Just go sit with yourself. So for me, first of all, it would boil down to having a me conversation in the mirror with a notepad or however you like to converse with yourself, and feel like, okay, what's the conversations I'm having within myself that make it that I'm maybe A, not happy with myself, and B, having trouble finding women or finding love at all. And then I would work on that. So, because that could be anything. So for me, it would start with inner conversation, and however you're going to do that, there's multiple ways to do that. But start with that inner conversation and find love within.
Love that. Again, Jared, how about you, my friend?
Yeah, so there's a couple, and I say these all the time. So the first is your body is a temple, treat it as such. You only get, there's a Warren Buffett video, it's a real good one. It's like you only get one of these things, so you can go buy a new car, trash it, and then trade it in for another one. You only get one body, so treat it well. Like I haven't slept as much these last couple of nights, but I'm filling my social bucket. I've been working a lot lately, so I'm like, all right, I need to charge my social batteries. So I still have energy, but physically I'm exhausted right now. You can probably kind of see it in my face. But so today is going to be a chill day. We're just going to have a good time. We're going to eat really clean, really healthy, go to bed early. I'm up early working tomorrow on some stuff. So really treat yourself, number one. It's kind of like when you're on an airplane too. They always tell you in the safety brief that if the oxygen masks fall down, put your mask on first and then put it on other people, because if you pass out, then you're of use to no one in that situation. So you got to put yourself first. That doesn't mean to be selfish or arrogant or not give back to people, but you have to make sure that you are as physically, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically fit, because then you can give a lot more to the world doing that. So that would be the first one. The second one, I say this to guys all the time: become your own best friend. A lot of guys they want to get into relationships, so they want to get laid for validational type reasons. There's a void they're trying to fill. A lot of times, psychology, guys like Freud or Jung would say it's something that is lacking in the childhood. Maybe they didn't receive the nurturing in the infant phase from their mother, and they're seeking to fill that void. I think a lot of guys fall into that, and I personally fell into that too when I was much younger. And then when I realized that, okay, I'm my own best friend, then I don't really need anyone else around. For me, I spend most of my time alone in this place. I have friends in town this weekend, but most of the time I'm alone and I'm walking around, I'm singing and dancing and snapping my fingers and just having a real good time with myself. And in doing so, I don't have that void anymore. In fact, for someone to come into my life, they have to amplify that energy. And if they take away from it, then I can just put that barricade up, that boundary up, and then just say, no, thanks, but no thanks. I'd rather not. Oh, do you want to go to a party with these people you don't like, or there's some kind of drama, or girls will text you or something, and you can tell, because when you realize women can feel your emotion, and then you can start to feel their emotion too. So you can feel the drama, they're doing something, and then I tell guys in the community all the time, like, dude, just leave her on red. She's not. And this women's energy changes all the time. We know this, and they're cyclical. Like literally, it manifests in the fact that they have cycles. Pay attention to language, guys. It exists for a reason, and it really tells you exactly the way the world works if you dial into it. But women are cyclical a lot of times. So you realize, hey, it's just one of those days. She's not on the right frequency. I'll just leave her on red, and then she'll get back to you. And then you set that precedent and that expectation that this is how you come at me. This is how you approach me. This is how a relationship with me looks like. So that actually, it was going to end up being number 3. I kind of segued into it without saying number 3. So first, your body's a temple, treated as such. 2, learn to love yourself and become your own best friend. And then 3, set boundaries. And you don't want to be draining your batteries for nothing. You need to make sure if someone's coming to the table that they are actually regenerating your batteries and then amplifying you, whether it be a guy friend, business partner, family too. You can cut off family if they're not on your same vibrational frequency, and then especially in the context of male-female relationships.
Hell yeah,
cool.
Husband.
Yeah, no, I there's not much to add from what they've already said, but I think the most important thing for me is you need to be honest with yourself. Like, look yourself in the mirror and actually admit to and forgive yourself for your shortcomings. We all have them, but a lot of people, they allow that pride, that ego to kind of keep it there instead of working on it. So understand where you are weak in whatever aspect, so that you can become that full person, so you can have a healthy relationship. And when you identify those areas, whether it be, your fitness, your making sure your body's in check, or it's your social skills, or it's your finances, whatever it is, or maybe you have an explosive temper. Like maybe it's something to do with your emotions. Figure it out. Forgive yourself for the fact that it exists and understand it's a piece of you. And then find people like coaches, like any of us or any other types of people out there that do it, and work with them to solve that so that you can become whole. We're all built or we're all born at, I guess you would say, like a certain percentage of where we need to get to. Some people are born like at 60%, and then they get to 100% to become whole faster than other people. Some other people may be born at like 10%. But identify those things, forgive yourself, like give yourself forgiveness, give yourself, space, and actually work on it. And then once you work on that and you really find your correct frequency, you have some beautiful, beautiful relationships with other people, not just with women, but also with great guys like I've got right here. It really is. It's a beautiful thing. So that's the main thing that I would suggest to focus on.
And can I add one more thing to that? I feel like we are, I guess, more alpha than most men, and we're very direct and harsh and whatever. But also on the softer side of things, don't be so fucking hard on yourself as well, right? Because I feel like sometimes if we're too hard on ourselves and see too many obstacles and whatever, like look too much on the other person, like, oh, it's so difficult to achieve and everything, and like you guys talk easy and stuff. It's like, have some fun. Like life is a whole lot of fun, but exactly what we said, like set some boundaries, understand yourself, work hard, play hard, but also if shit doesn't work out, it's all right. Move on.
I always tell my guys, reframe your failures. So I had something a couple weeks ago that stressed me out in my business. And then Monday, it really stressed me out. By Friday, it turns out I'm glad it happened, because not only did I get what I wanted, I got 1.5 in terms of like finances from that deal. that I wanted. So at the time I was really kind of off, kind of having a real shitty day that Monday. And then at the end of the day, I remind myself kind of mentally, give myself a pat on the back. Like, I coach a lot of guys, but I have to coach myself too. My higher self has to coach my lower self when those lower frequencies start to come up, and like, okay, what is this? Like, where's this coming from? Oh, well, I grew up kind of not impoverished, but like we always had enough, but we barely had enough. So like, I have to overcome that vibrational energy that's still left over inside of me. So at the end of the day, it's just like, hey, Jaron, you're doing a good job. If this had happened 10 years ago, you would have almost fallen apart. Whereas this, like, it's just, yeah, it sucks. It's a minor setback, but by the end of the week, it'll all work out. And it did. And that was so powerful to be able to reframe that. Now, that was just a few weeks ago. Now there's momentum going in that area of my life, and things are looking on the up and up, to where, okay, it has to happen, because I was still, and in doing so, that small failure on just that one day I experienced, it brought something up from my past that I had to work on, worked it out throughout the week. And then Friday, I'm like, okay, that's why it happened, and it had to happen. But at the end of that day where it happened, I just pat myself on the back, like, Jaron, we're doing a good job. We're in this. Like, look around, look what you've built for yourself. And then I always tell myself, you're just getting started. I've been at this for years, but every day I wake up, this is day one. Like, we're just getting started. Like, nothing that happened in the past matters. It's from here moving forward. What are we going to do today so tomorrow's better? But when tomorrow happens, we're not worried about yesterday. It's day zero again, or it's day one again.
Man, you got me fired up, dude. For being dead tired, you got a lot of energy today. I appreciate it.
Going back, like, yeah, you got the energy transformation. When I come on these shows, it does charge my social batteries, which is nice. Yeah, I'm physically tired, but spiritually, I'm fucking fired up. So like, you can't tell. Yeah, I mean, you can see it on my body, and I can feel it. My joints are kind of sore and dry, but I didn't take care of myself 100% this weekend in this physical vessel. But yeah, dude, spiritually, this shit fires me up.
That's why I love we're talking about the spiritual stuff. It's what's missing right now in the world, and it's so important. It's so important. So, Huds, what you said was one of mine as well. Just like, be able to own your mistakes and ask yourself that question, like, am I wrong? Just try it. It's super powerful. Am I wrong? I've had to do this a few times in this last week, and as soon as I actually accepted the question, like, am I wrong? And the answer was, yes, you are. I like just relaxed. Like, okay, like, I don't need to be right. Like, I'm still alive. It's okay. Like, no one's gonna die. The world's not gonna end. And like you said as well, Lucas, like, at some point, the end result is we all return to where we came from.
And can you imagine if you had no setbacks, how boring life would be? You hear about those kids, like kids of celebrities or rich kids, or whatever they call it, affluence or something like that. Those kids always end up being complete messes. So you kind of need the setbacks. You need that contrast. You need those lows, so when you're on a high and you can enjoy it.
That is so true. That is so
that's
true.
That's why all the addicting stuff don't work, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because it only gets you happy for a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And those are the ones that usually have the big issues with, like, substances. The super rich kids.
Yeah.
So another one I had, and this is one that I've been practicing a lot, is to go periods of the day without any distraction. So like, put the phone away, no podcast playing in the ear, no earbuds, just be 100% one with the world. And I'm not gonna lie, it can be really freaking painful. Like, sometimes, like,
yes,
oh my god, it hurts like a son of a bitch. And so, like, last night I got home, like, I was listening to podcasts all day, was talking to you guys, and I'm like, I'm just gonna spend, like, until I go to bed, just complete, like, silence with myself. And what I found is a ton of stuff came up. A ton of, like, questions I was wondering about, a ton of emotions,
and they just pop into your thought space, right? Like, where did that come from? Like, I've been carrying that around.
Right? Like, I thought I answered this with the 5 podcasts I listened to today. Like, nope, right here. And then this morning as well, woke up, didn't listen to any podcasts, listened to a little music, which I found actually threw my energy off. So it's very fine, like you said, Jaron. I'm getting to the point where if I add any stimulus, it does, mess with my energy frequency. And so, again, really looking forward to coming down so where I won't have those distractions anymore. But
I
dude,
think we're gonna help each other shine. I'm actually quite looking forward to it. There's a bit where I'm like, well, I haven't had a roommate in like 10 years, and I don't even know how to do it. Like, do we split the fridge down the middle or by shelves, or like, and then like that's such low level thinking. I'm like, no, like everything in the world happens for a reason. I'm getting way more into the spiritual side of myself too, and having talked to you behind the scenes, I'm really excited. I think we're gonna help each other shine a lot faster than we'd be doing it if we went on our own.
I just need to keep you guys focused. That's what I'm worried about. Is you guys are just going to become knuckleheads and get distracted all the time.
Well,
no, you can ask my guests right now. They're like, I'm always worried they're bored because I have people in town, like, and you feel like you have the obligation to entertain them. Like they've never been to Mexico City before. We should be going out and seeing the tourist sites. And we went out last night and just, sat down and talked for hours and hours. Today we're all kind of tired, and they're like, hey, we're fine if we just chill today. I'm like, okay, good. Yeah. Cause I'm not really looking to be a tour guide. I work very, very long days. So it'll actually be the opposite. If Joel, you're like, hey dude, we do live in a cool city. We should probably go out and experience it a little bit at some point. For me, it's finding time to pull myself out of work and actually enjoy life a little bit.
Yeah, Huds, what you're going to have to focus on with us is we're going to have too many ideas. We're going to be like, dude, we are starting 40 YouTube channels.
You guys are going to have it's going to be too much energy. It's going to be chaotic as hell.
Huds, here's 50 videos today. Post them.
We in the background like, dude, only 50? Let's go. Come on.
Yeah.
So dude, I'm so excited for that too. I was thinking about that yesterday. Like, I want to be up early. I want to be hitting the gym every day. I want to be like pushing to failure. And when I'm by myself, I'm not going to do that. It's like,
if I didn't have guests today, I probably would have just laid around all day, but I do feel kind of obligated. It's like, well, they flew down to visit me, so I should probably, go out and show them at least a good time, or, see some cool stuff. And it's a beautiful day out today. I don't like being inside when it's beautiful.
So beautiful.
Hey, maybe this is a good point to end on, right? What we're kind of addressing is the fact of like your chosen family, your circle that you surround yourself with can be such like a vital structure for you to succeed. Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I used to be one of those lone wolf, or what do they call it, Sigma male type guys. Like, and I am naturally an introvert, but me having this energy right now, you notice when I go on these streams, I have a lot of energy. That's because I feed off of you guys' energy. You give that to me and it comes out of me. And then when I'm by myself, I'm usually pretty quiet. I'm usually really low energy, really low key, trying to kind of recharge my batteries there. But I think that it has a lot to do with it in terms of going back to the energy thing. I think that was the thematic topic of this entire conversation. You have to get that from your social circle. So guys like, oh, I'm going to go conquer the world on my own. Yeah, you can do that. I guess Caesar could have done that on his own, but having multiple Roman legions probably helped him out a little bit in that conquest.
Yeah, no, I swear I know a guy that is actually somebody I used to work with. He went that kind of lone wolf route, and he's been fairly successful, but he has a cap, and people don't want to work with him, and he's very difficult to work with, and it just you reach a cap, and it's incredibly frustrating. Having that circle, like a circle like this of people that can elevate you, it really is the most beautiful thing in the world.
Amen. Yeah, Huds, you woke me up to that like 2 weeks ago. Like, this is a new epiphany for me. Been in that lone wolf mentality for so long, and in this course of like, I don't know, like 12 hours, I heard 4 different people say you need a team. One was you, Huds. One was our other friend Josh. One was The Rock, and then Tom Brady. So it's like, if Tom Brady is saying you need a team, it's like, all right, I surrender.
Yep.
Yeah, would he have all those Super Bowl rings if he didn't have a team? He's just by himself throwing the ball to like no one in his backyard his whole life.
Tom,
like Uncle Rico on Napoleon Dynamite. No, throw this football over the mountains there.
Oh man, that's great.
That's Uncle Rico, baby. So to wrap it up completely, let's just go around, say where you guys can find me, where people can find you, what you got going on behind the scenes, and we'll call it. So Lucas, our guest of honor, take it away, my brother.
Well, you can find me at my website. It's standtall.coach. And as you can see, it's my handle right here on the screen. Stand Tall, Rise Above It at IG. Same thing goes for Twitter, or what is called X nowadays. Not very active on there yet. And soon there will be a YouTube channel going live as well. but you'll see that on my Instagram and my website. But predominantly website standtall.coach and Instagram standtall rise above it.
Alrighty, for me, you got my Instagram right there. Instagram at Gringo.
Wait,
Guys.
hold on, Jaron. Mm-hmm. You need to tell me what this whole Gringo Guides thing is. I thought you were Men's Shrine or something before. What is this rebrand? Can you tell the audience so they know what's going on?
Yeah, so Men's Shrine is kind of holding me back. So I started that as a blog in 2015. I was going through some real hard times. That was me really trying to integrate with myself and then share those lessons along the way. It's still out there. You guys can go there, mensshrine.com. It started off as a blog. It's got all sorts of videos on my YouTube channel still there. Eventually, I'll start archiving those videos. I will bring them over for and then have them just warehoused or archived on Men's Shrine. So really that was me doing my internal development myself. I got to that point a few years ago, like, all right, I'm integrated. I am myself. Now I want to go out there and start conquering the world. And I felt as though covering those topics, things that I was hung up on almost 10 years ago now, was kind of holding me back. Whereas Gringo Guides, you can tell I live in Mexico City. Been living off and on down in Mexico since 2006, so well before the Passport Bros thing. I know Spanish. I'm well integrated in the society. I have a very vast social circle with some really cool people down here, and I live life like most other foreigners don't live in this country. Let's just say that. So I know that there's a lot of interest in those types of topics, and also it opens me up to areas in which I'm just now starting to develop or put more energy and effort into my life, like really growing my business, really growing my reach, helping people at a global level, not just people in the manosphere spaces, which, they come there a lot of times through trauma. Hey man, I'm going through a divorce. Kind of, they come there with like a sense of nihilism or life's just not really going well for me. Oh, women are out there to hurt me. They're all a bunch of 304s. Those are low-level topics and low-level energy. I don't want to focus on that anymore. Now, if you do have those problems, I can still help you through there and definitely streamline that recovery process for you. But for me, I want to start getting out there and conquering new territory. So that's where the rebrand came from. I actually wrote my thesis on the subject, like the etymology of the word gringo and its modern day cultural implications. That is published. It's cited frequently. So it all kind of ties it back together. For whatever reason, I moved to Mexico when I was 18, and the universe has a way of opening doors for you, and you don't really know why it does it at the time. But as you get going, as you get more momentum, it all kind of starts to align. You're like, okay, here's my purpose. Here's what it is. Like, I had the ability to learn Spanish in a month. Most people can't do that. There's gringos that have been down here for longer than I have. They still can't speak Spanish. I learned it immediately. So I didn't study it. I didn't try. Like, it was just there at my disposal. Like, okay, in Spanish, they call it a don, which is like your talent or your God-given gift. So I'm trying to align all of these God-given gifts that I have and really do something powerful here. So that's the Gringo Guides. And I do a lot of stuff in Spanish too. So I want to start having more of a crossover audience, start collaborating more with a lot of the girls I date. I'll still cover the dating topics, or just my friends around here, because there is in the Americas, there is a huge Latin influence in the U.S. We're the second largest Spanish-speaking country in the world, and then recently, since COVID, 2 or 3 million Americans have moved down here. So it allowed me to niche down to a new market, but also open me up topics-wise. So how do you maintain 10% body fat in Mexico? It's not very like a fit forward type culture yet. It's years and years behind the US, but there's ways to do it. Okay, well, how do you do that on a budget? I can do all of these topics now. So that really excites me. And then with Joel coming down, I figured, hey, it'll be a lot easier for content. I've got a buddy from LA. He arrived late last night. Just the conversations we're having about little things. Oh, why does the security do that? Why does the door close this way? How come the windows are that way? Like how come the light switches are reversed? Just weird little things like that. Those are all content opportunities. So that was kind of the goal there. So go to Gringo Guides. You can find my YouTube channel. Be sure to follow, like, subscribe videos, share, recommend to other people. Get in the comments there. I do one-on-one coaching. So through Gringo Guides, you can link to my website. It's still mensshrine.com. We're building the new site on the new domain right now. I do have the top 10% community. That is a group of guys looking to level up in all areas of love and life by building lives worth living and loving. So reach out to me about that. I have a dating course coming up. A lot going on in my life. Dating course coming up. So get in and ask any questions about that. And then actually got invited to join 2 very big names in the space, Troy Francis and James Tusk, to do a live in-person boot camp in Mexico City. So those guys have their own methodology, but me, a lot of my value add is like, I know the lay of the land. I know the culture. I got a couple of phone numbers last night with my main girl with me, and my buddy's just looking there. The girl's kind of hard to open at first, so I kept throwing out feelers, and then eventually she got one and she caught onto it, and you could see her whole demeanor change, like these little conversational threads. Just nope, miss with the like throwing darts, miss with that one, miss with that one. It's like, but she's closing the distance and she's starting to open herself more non-verbally to me. And then I threw one. She completely turned to me, like shut everyone else out, and then just in my face, like, yeah. I'm like, gotcha. So covering all, so that's my kind of unique insight to it. And then I know the cultural thing too. So got invited to join those guys. We have a couple seats open. If you're interested in that, definitely hit me up on Gringo Guides or at Gringo Guides. And that's what I'm up to.
Cool. That's wild. No, that's awesome. You're gonna be working with James Tusk and Troy Francis down there. That's crazy. Literally in your backyard too. So yeah, no,
I do well down here. Yeah, I live life like no other.
Yeah, definitely would recommend people to check that out. If people don't know, they run these dating boot camps where, excuse me. So they run these dating boot camps where it's like 4 days, like Thursday to Sunday, and they take you through everything: day game, night game. There's breakdowns. You have the coaches giving you personalized advice and showing by example. I know some people that have done it, and it absolutely changed their entire perspective on everything. And if that's one of the things that you need to do to become your full confident person, then definitely reach out to him. On my end, I don't have a ton to share right now, but as many of you may know, I am a dating coach. So if you have any dating questions or you want to schedule a consult, definitely hit me up right there. Instagram at The Husband. And yeah, you can continue to catch me here every Sunday. And there's a lot of other things brewing that I'm very excited about. So definitely stay tuned.
Oh, awesome. And Jaron, a dong means something different in the US, by the way, than in Mexico.
Yep.
I do have one last thing I totally forgot to mention, Joel. We've got the Men of Now community.
Yes,
so,
oh my God, how'd that blow my mind? I saved it for you actually, because I pitched too many things.
Yeah, you're good. But
I'm also a DJ. Now... I'm also a real estate agent.
So the Men of Now community. Joel. We're gonna be having the Men of Now community launching on Friday, October 13th, which I just think that's so funny because Friday the 13th is always they say bad luck or whatever.
We're taking it back.
And the fact that it's happening in October with the month of Halloween just makes it all the more unique. So we will be launching this. There'll be more information posted in the future, but it's going to be a private men's community similar to the top 10%, but at a lower price range, because I know that sometimes it's difficult for people to stomach the full amount that they have to pay to get into top 10% or some of the other communities out there. So it's going to be more affordable, but you're going to get just as much value. So I'm really excited to share all those details with you guys in time, but just know that in the next couple of weeks, we're going to have an official community where you can be surrounded by these guys and constantly talk to them, learn from them, and level up in whatever area you need.
Oh man, so excited. And it's going to be so cool because it's not like it's not like it's just on dating. It's going to be fitness, it's going to be business, it's going to be finance, it's going to be relationships, it's going to be addiction, it's going to be whatever your struggle is. We're going to have someone that can help you. So we're really looking forward to it. Absolutely. Guys, if you want to find me, I'm also a real estate agent and a DJ. I actually am, but besides the point. Yeah, Sobriety University, come on down. We're doing a lot of content on addiction and getting people clean and sober from alcohol and drugs. Also, we're diving into more of the relationship side of things, so codependency. So you will be seeing all of these guys on the channel coming up very soon. We're going to be going deep dive into a lot of this stuff because it's kind of the root. I mean, I think you see it a lot of times in real life. People, they get the money, they get the house, they get the women, and they're still empty inside. And often because they haven't learned how to go within. And so that's really what we're focusing on is diving into that and learning more about it. I'm still learning about it every single day within myself. So I'm right there with you guys. I also do coaching as well, like the boys here, and we're seeing some great results with people trying to quit weed and getting back on track with their lives. And it's tough. It's tough when it's not debilitating. Like there's almost something where when you're at rock bottom, it's almost in a weird sense easier because you have nowhere else to go. But when your life's going all right and you see this as a habit that's killing your productivity, that's slowly eroding your relationships, that's when it's tough and when it can be difficult to quit. So I'm there with you. I have a 28-day program. It helps you quit slowly, helps you wean off, and where you don't just have to go cold turkey and then just have this traumatic experience. Like you get to still use as you slowly, over time quit the substance. And we're seeing that is helping a lot of people, and it's allowing them to quit on their own terms, which is, again, it's you that is doing it. So let's see, other than that, gonna be, stay tuned to the channel. We're gonna have some awesome content. We're gonna be doing some vlogs, guys. Like I know it's these combos it's a different style, but we're gonna have some really cool stuff. We're gonna get some drone shots and do all like the cool like YouTube shit. So stay tuned for that.
We got a pad in Cancun lined up. They just confirmed that with first girl I ever dated in Mexico almost 20 years ago. Has done really well for herself career-wise. So she just bought a place in Cancun. She's like, dude, can you come out and stay with me for a couple of weeks? I'm like, yeah, I can do that. Definitely. It's like, I got Joel now. I got the plus one. She's like, oh yeah, bring whoever. I'm like, all right, sweet.
Let's go.
Jesus, you guys are going to have a time. That's awesome.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Can't wait. And in a couple of weeks from now as well, last plug for Sobriety University, Lucas and I are going to be doing a podcast on addiction. So tune in for that. This is not the last time you're going to see this 6'11" giant on our stuff here. And boys, Huds, Jaron, you're welcome to join on that as well. So we'll have more information about that. Other than that, Lucas, thank you so much for coming on today. Super appreciate it. I know it's late for you, and hopefully this gave you some energy, so it's a struggle to fall asleep. That's how it
was a great pleasure, guys. Thank you all.
So absolutely great. You're welcome anytime. I really appreciate your perspective.
Yeah, it was a great conversation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Cool.
Great.
So we will wrap it with that, and thanks guys for coming in, and talk to you in the next one.